3I/ATALS had already stunned astronomers with its emerald glow and erratic trajectory, but it was the sudden appearance of SWC 2025R2, an object nearly 200 times its size, that shifted everything. Both entered the inner solar system within days of each other, moving along sharply tilted, hyperbolic paths, as if drawn by a shared objective. Their synchronized timing, despite originating from completely different regions of space, raised questions that science wasn't ready to answer. More disturbing were the behaviors: steady pulsing, unexplainable acceleration, and energy outputs inconsistent with natural comets or asteroids. The data hinted at artificiality, and then the observatories went silent. If you're still watching, subscribe now. You crave more than answers. You seek what lies beyond. Subscribe now, and be part of the few who never stop searching. The blackout during their closest solar pass left only civilian eyes tracking the event. What was visible suggested something intentional, even engineered. The sheer scale of SWC 2025R2, its directed movement, and its narrowing trajectory toward 3I/ATALS felt less like coincidence and more like coordination. Meanwhile, grassroots observers around the world have stepped up, documenting every visible clue. As official channels remain quiet, the mystery deepens. Are we witnessing natural cosmic phenomena, or the deliberate actions of something far more complex? Something just entered our solar system, and it's not small, it's not quiet, and it's not alone. Two objects, 3I/ATALS and SWC 2025R2, have arrived. Not weeks apart, not months, but days, both on trajectories so unusual, so exact, and so unnatural, they've forced astronomers to question whether these are comets at all. 3I/ATALS is glowing green, brilliant, controlled. It entered on a steep hyperbolic orbit, one that cannot be explained by the gravity of the solar system alone. It's moving fast, faster than any comet its size should move. And yet, it's stable, no signs of disintegration, no chaotic debris, just steady, consistent behavior that stands in stark contrast to what we're used to seeing from icy interstellar visitors. But ATALS is not alone. A second object, designated SWC 2025R2, followed close behind. It's bigger, more complex, and 200 times the mass of ATALS. That's not a rounding error. That's not a tracking mistake. That's deliberate movement of something colossal through the inner solar system, and it's headed straight toward the same region of space where ATALS is currently positioned. That convergence is the problem, and it's what no one wants to talk about publicly. These two objects originated from completely different parts of space. Their paths are not related, their speeds are not matched, and yet they're arriving together. They're converging within days, toward the sun, in a tightly defined corridor that lines up with mathematical precision. Statistical coincidence? Not anymore. There are behaviors that make this impossible to ignore. Both objects have exhibited pulsing, steady rhythmic brightening not tied to solar wind or rotation. They've accelerated not gravitationally, but actively. Short bursts, microthrusts, controlled changes in trajectory that hint at propulsion, not dust jets, not radiation pressure, but movement with purpose. They've held energy levels that defy explanation. Thermal readings suggest energy reserves far beyond what's possible for natural objects. The glow isn't just from reflection, it's consistent, artificial, even across shadowed portions. That's not sunlight. That's self-illumination. Astronomers noticed, and so did governments. During their closest approach to the sun, when observation was most critical, observatories went dark. Literally, ground-based facilities were told to power down. Solar-focused satellites went offline. Radar tracking ceased, all within the same 72-hour window. There was no explanation. No technical failure, no solar interference, just a coordinated silence. The public was told nothing. But in the background, amateur astronomers began to notice. Backyard telescopes picked up strange patterns, radio enthusiasts tracked odd frequencies, and independent observatories, privately owned and out of official control, kept their equipment running. What they recorded aligned with everything the public wasn't supposed to know. The blackout was real. The approach was deliberate, and the behavior of both objects pointed to something more than frozen rock. Engineered, directed, possibly watching. ATA Ellis was the first interstellar object since Oumuamua to show this kind of hyperbolic escape velocity. But unlike Oumuamua, which tumbled silently through space, ATA Ellis is active, controlled. Its orientation doesn't wobble, its brightness doesn't decay. It's holding position as if waiting. And then SWC 2025 R2 entered the system, larger, more erratic in shape, but following a path that narrows toward ATA Ellis's current location. That's not gravity. That's targeting. And it's happening right now. Even stranger, the orbital period associated with these objects ties back to ancient cycles. Swan's orbital return window, based on projections, spans 22,554 years. That number isn't just astronomical, it's historical. It intersects with Earth's deep past, with documented climate shifts, with ancient flood myths, with patterns carved into stone across civilizations. This isn't mythology, it's data. These cycles repeat, and now, the arrival lines up almost perfectly. Are we looking at natural bodies passing through the solar system, or something designed to pass through at precise intervals? Scientists are cautious, but the evidence doesn't require leaps. It's here. The timing, the energy signatures, the suppression of public observation, the size differential. R2 is over 200 times more massive than ATA Ellis, yet displays similar controlled acceleration. That's not accidental. That's a system. Maybe not ours, but a system nonetheless. There are theories, probes, reconnaissance, communication nodes. Maybe they're harvesting energy, maybe they're gathering data. Some have pointed to the consistent glow as evidence of solar field absorption. Others suspect they're magnetically tethered, drawing from the heliosphere to refuel. None of that is provable, yet, but it's not wild speculation. It's a response to data that refuses to fit established models. If ATA Ellis is a probe, it's one that behaves with restraint. No transmissions, no erratic bursts, just steady movement, steady pulsing and silent transit. If R2 is a mothership, or a carrier object, it's operating with even more silence. It entered undetected for weeks, due to its tilted trajectory. It's darker in optical bands, quieter in infrared, but now that it's closer, we're seeing it. And it's massive. The closeness of their approach isn't just spatial, it's systemic. They passed through key observation zones, where sun-facing probes like SOHO and Stereo could have gathered direct data, but all we got were dead feeds and quiet updates. The blackout wasn't an accident, it was coordinated. Why? That's the question no one is answering. Not NASA. Not NESA. Not any official institution tasked with monitoring solar system activity. When the blackout hit, independent channels became the only source of truth. Forums, live streams, time-lapse recordings, grainy, imperfect but real. And those recordings showed what mainstream agencies wouldn't: movement, coordination, activity. And then silence again. But even in silence, patterns persist. Both objects moved in a manner that suggests rendezvous. Their orbits aligned, their trajectories narrowed, and now, many believe R2's path is intercepting ATA Ellis intentionally. If that's true, then we're not just witnessing movement, we're witnessing a meeting. One object, 200 times more massive, heading straight for another interstellar traveler whose behavior already defies natural classification, and no one is talking about it. Why these objects arrived now is another puzzle. Their entry points, speeds and vectors don't suggest shared origin, but their timing does. They crossed into the solar system within days of each other, from different vectors. But converging, moving toward the sun together, that's not random, that's calculated. And if it's calculated, then someone or something did the calculating. Some believe this is a recurring event, that these objects are part of a cycle, a kind of celestial surveillance run, that every few tens of thousands of years, something comes through, watches, gathers, moves on, and maybe now we've caught them in the act. This isn't science fiction, this is current observation, and the blackout only strengthens the case. If these were just icy rocks, No one would have shut down the world's most powerful telescopes. No one would have disabled sun-pointed satellites in the middle of a close pass. No one would have told researchers to stop collecting radar echoes during peak visibility. But they did, and that silence says more than any press release ever could. Now, amateur astronomers are stepping up. Citizen scientists are doing what the institutions won't: tracking, recording, sharing, across forums, across borders, across disciplines. Because when the system goes dark, the people turn on the lights. Whatever these objects are, they've made their entrance. Not quietly, not discreetly, but deliberately. And they're being watched, just not by the agencies you'd expect. If this is a message, it's one we haven't decoded yet. If this is reconnaissance, then we're being studied. If this is contact, then it's happening on their terms, not ours. And if this is just the beginning, then we better start asking harder questions. Are we alone? Or have we just been noticed? If you're still following, if you're still trying to connect the dots, still looking for the truth behind the blackout, stay with it. These aren't random lights in the sky. They're events, controlled, monitored, and possibly intelligent. Share this. Send it to someone who still believes data matters. Leave a comment. What do you think these objects are? And subscribe for more. Because the next move isn't ours. It's theirs. The solar system doesn't welcome visitors often, but when it does, it remembers. And this time it's remembering loudly. 3I/ATN and SWC 2025 R2 are rewriting what we thought we knew about the space around us. Not because of their beauty, not because of their brightness, but because of what they are doing, what they should not be capable of doing, and what that means for everything we've built our understanding of space upon. Start with the basics. 3I/ATLAA. A bright green object that first appeared as a point of light on deep sky monitoring feeds, traveling faster than almost anything ever tracked entering the inner solar system. The trajectory wasn't standard. It wasn't gravitationally explainable. It was hyperbolic, a shape that means it's not bound to the sun, not part of our system, and won't return once it's gone. An interstellar traveler, the third ever confirmed, after Oumuamua and Borisov. But unlike either of those, 3I/ATLAS didn't behave like a piece of frozen debris. It didn't tumble randomly or shed fragments. It pulsed, slowly, consistently, as though running on a rhythm, one completely detached from the sun's rotation, solar wind, or any known natural influence. The glow it produced was steady, calculated. And most disturbingly, it changed frequency, not erratically, deliberately. This was recorded multiple times before the blackout began. Observatories in Chile, South Africa, Japan, and the Canary Islands captured intervals where the object's luminosity rose and fell in exact ratios. Ratios that repeated at predictable intervals before disappearing completely from open data streams. That's when the blackout began. Then came SWC 2025. R2. It entered from the opposite direction, southern heliocentric coordinates, descending fast from the outer solar plane, tilting against every established path. It wasn't supposed to exist. No telescope had seen it until it was already halfway through its inbound trajectory. And when it appeared, its brightness was instantly extreme. Its core larger than most asteroids. Its emissions steady, unchanging, and cold. Ra-2 isn't a comet. It's not volatile. It's not breaking apart. It's holding temperature as though it's regulating it. It's also accelerating at intervals that can't be caused by outgassing or solar radiation pressure. The thrusts are subtle, micro movements, measured over hours, but unmistakably intentional. The kicker: Ra-2 is massive, over 200 times the size and mass of 3I/ATLAA. That's not a companion body. That's a command ship. And its path is set toward ATLAA. The timing is so precise, it feels less like coincidence and more like choreography. Both bodies entered from different origins. One from interstellar space, one from deep extragalactic coordinates, and both converging toward the sun, reaching alignment within a window of less than 5 days. That's coordination. When astronomers noticed this alignment, instruments locked on, but almost immediately, Data access began to vanish. First, NASA's Solar and Heliospheric Observatory feed froze. Then the European Space Agency's solar probes went into scheduled maintenance. Even radar stations tasked with tracking near-Earth objects were instructed to suspend observation. It wasn't regional. It was global. That blackout stretched over the same time frame that R2 and ATLAS reached perihelion, their closest point to the Sun, and when systems came back online, telemetry was gone, archive links broken, data blank. The most critical 72 hours of their approach erased. That silence says more than any official briefing ever could. Because silence at that level means classification. When the blackout ended, amateur astronomers filled the gap. In backyards and small observatories across the world, they turned their equipment toward the empty coordinates where ATLAS and R2 should have been. The data they collected wasn't perfect, but it was enough. Enough to confirm what official systems weren't sharing. The two objects had shifted trajectories toward each other. That single detail changed everything. 3I/ATLAS is small enough to be considered maneuverable, but for R2, a body 200 times more massive, to alter course with such precision requires control beyond any natural mechanism. There's no outgassing event powerful enough to steer an object that large, and yet it turned. Slightly, gradually, but undeniably. It's not hard to connect the dots. Both bodies show signatures of energy reserves, not potential energy like thermal radiation or reflection, but actual emission spectra indicating continuous power output, hydrogen excitation, magnetic realignment, electrostatic discharge. All phenomena that require activity, not passivity, and they're not random. The emissions are consistent, repeating, structured. Those signatures mirror what we know of energy management systems: modulated bursts, controlled venting, timed fluctuations, except these are happening on objects millions of kilometers apart, synchronizing across deep space. That synchronization raises a question that no one in official channels wants to touch. Are these objects communicating? Every clue points toward yes. The pulse frequency of 3I/ATLAS and the micro-thrust intervals of R2 are nearly identical in timing when mapped against each other. It's not perfect, but it's within 1% accuracy. That's coordination to a degree that nature doesn't produce on its own. And yet both are silent to our instruments. No direct radio signals. No data packets, just motion and light. Communication that may not use electromagnetic frequencies the way we do. The implication: these may not be comets. They may not even be passive probes. They could be machines, engines of observation or data collection designed to operate silently, powered by harvested solar energy or magnetic field interaction. Look at the data another way. When plotted against ancient records of near-solar objects, chronicles from early civilizations, astronomical engravings, even climate data, a strange pattern emerges. Every 22,554 years, similar events appear. Sudden spikes in recorded sky brightness. Sudden cultural emphasis on celestial visitors. Sudden temperature shifts on Earth's surface. That's not speculation. That's a measurable orbital cycle, and Swan's own orbital period, the same class as R2's trajectory, fits that cycle almost perfectly. So now the question isn't what are these? It's how long have they been coming here? Ancient texts across continents describe luminous objects near the Sun, often associated with change, chaos, and renewal. It's tempting to dismiss that as myth, but when the orbital math matches the timeline, coincidence stops being enough. Maybe this isn't their first visit. Maybe it's just the first time we were able to see it happen live. And yet, as the objects converged, official silence grew. Not denial, just absence. As if by saying nothing, agencies hoped the story would dissolve. But it hasn't. The more people look, the stranger it becomes. At their closest, the two bodies nearly overlapped visually from Earth's perspective. Amateur data shows a faint bridge of plasma-like emission connecting them for several hours before the glow dimmed. A transfer. A data relay. A refueling process. No one can say for sure. But whatever it was, it happened. Then both objects began to decelerate slightly. Another unnatural act. In the vacuum of space, there's no reason for that to happen unless energy is being actively expended to slow movement. And now, as they move outward, they remain in alignment. Not random drift. Coordinated retreat. Some have argued that R2 could be acting as a protective or recovery unit for ATLAs. Others think it's observation, two instruments from the same origin performing synchronized data collection within the inner solar system before departure. Either explanation requires one impossible assumption: design. And that's where the conversation turns dangerous. Because design means intelligence. If these are engineered probes, then someone somewhere sent them. Someone who understands energy management, trajectory control, and magnetic propulsion on scales far beyond human capability. And if their trajectory toward the sun was deliberate, it could mean they were refueling, using the heliosphere as an energy source. Some researchers quietly suggested this in private circles before those conversations disappeared. Objects capable of absorbing plasma flow from the solar wind could sustain indefinite energy reserves. If that's true, they might not be visitors at all. They might be part of an ongoing system of observation across interstellar space. Which leads to the last piece of the puzzle. Why, out of all cosmic eras, would this alignment happen when human observation is at its peak? When our technology is finally capable of noticing the difference? Maybe it's not coincidence. Maybe it's response. Maybe after decades of sending our own signals, radio, radar, laser communications, something finally answered. Whatever the truth, official silence cannot bury it anymore. The evidence is spread across private Al-Qaeda telescopes, open-source data channels, and thousands of eyes that saw what the agencies refused to acknowledge. The blackout didn't erase the event. It amplified it. Now, as the data spreads, people everywhere are connecting the dots. The timing, the energy signatures, the cycles, all of it leads to one unavoidable conclusion: something extraordinary just passed through our solar system. And it might not have been the first time.